Chaos versus unity. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, Democrats can barely keep up with the fastballs thrown by the Trump transition team. The president-elect continues to fill out his cabinet. He's opted for nominees that he believes can be trusted to carry out the MAGA agenda, which, of course, terrifies the keepers of the status quo. So ricocheting across social media were photos and videos of Trump and all his friends partying the night away.
We are in the presence of a really mythical character. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Guess what? We got the second George Washington.
You know, I'm a person that believes in high IQs, and his is about as high as they get. Elon Musk, Elon. You know, he likes this place. I can't get him out of here. I guess if you like health and if you like people that live a long time, it's the most important position. RFK Jr.
Now, watching this just must be salt in the wounds of Democrats. They're still reeling over Republicans' trifecta win. When not trashing Trump's picks, we'll get to that, they're busy finger-pointing at each other. The influential left-of-center website Slate published a piece today. The title is, "Democrats, You Have to Do Better Than This." There's been basically zero accountability, they write. No real reckoning from the Democratic National Committee on how it managed to spend $1 billion on the only Democratic presidential popular vote loss in 20 years. No apologies from Chuck Schumer. No introspective messaging about losing not just the presidency, but the Senate and the House. Meanwhile, Democrat members are growing increasingly irritated by Nancy Pelosi after she blamed Biden for the party losses. Nevertheless, as Trump's win has really begun to sink in, some Democrats are finally beginning, and I say beginning, to grapple with what the Angle told you years ago. That, frankly, the Democrat Party is just out of touch with the middle class. They focus way too much on abortion. They went way too far woke. And, of course, that they said Joe Biden was weak and waited too long to step aside. Or that Kamala was a lousy candidate. We told you she was. And that campaigning with the never-Trumpers, Liz Cheney, come on, that was a huge mistake. And right now, when you think about this, at this moment, Democrats are kind of facing the same challenges that the GOP faced after Romney lost in 2012. Do you stay with the same approach and the same arguments, or do you just decide to go in a different direction to try to reach more voters? Now, in the GOP back then, the division was between the old guard, represented by folks like Jeb Bush, who kind of stuck to the 2005 era messaging, versus the newcomer on the scene, Donald Trump, and then all of his followers. Of course, we know Trump believed that to win, the GOP had to reconnect with the working class, and that included ethnic minorities, even if that meant that we needed to change our positions on military intervention, war, trade, and immigration. Of course, Trump won, attracting Hispanics, young voters, and more black voters. And the Republican Party, thank the good Lord, changed for the better. But where does this leave the Democrats? Well, this leaves the Democrats with nothing but their current posture, spitting in the wind. Against Trump's DNI nominee, Tulsi Gabbard, they're lobbing the typical smears with zero evidence.
Do you think Tulsi Gabbard is a candidate to be compromised by a foreign country?
I don't know. There's a lot of speculation right now. She needs to answer these questions.
The things she has said is making Democrats like yourself wonder if she's some kind of like Manchurian candidate.
Some people, as you know, say that, you know, the reason why she's doing that is potentially because there was some financial arrangement.
Well, I've heard that it kind of could be a financial. I'm watching this today. Like, are you kidding me? It's like 8th grade. But given the screw-ups in the intel community, like, anyone remember the Chinese spy balloon? What are the Democrats really going to gain politically by defending the intel community and all the things that it's missed? Of course, their record is just riddled with failure. And Tulsi's the problem? And what about Trump's nominee for Pentagon chief, Pete Hegseth? He keeps taking incoming.
I'm going to add the Secretary of Defense nominee, Peter Hegseth. This is someone who, you know, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist, whose platform, whose book is basically about his opposition to the advancement of black officers to the top brass.
It's just defamation at this point. But what will the Democrats really gain if they're just seen as standing with the woke crusaders at the Pentagon?
DoD Pride is comprised of lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender, and queer civilians, service members, veterans, contractors, family members, and allies.
We have also expanded access to care for service members and their dependents who identify as transgender.
Oh my God, the poor military service members having to listen to that. And then you think about it. What happens when the Democrats' media collaborators throw dirt at Trump's nominee for AG?
The ethics investigation has not been released yet. What about all of the questions and the allegations against him? You said it yourself. These are allegations. It's amazing that you're more upset about allegations than you are about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. The American public has completely lost faith in the DOJ. Think about it. The DOJ sending their agents to spy on the parents who go to, you know, the school board meetings. It's just amazing. As the American public has seen all of this, they see somebody like Matt Gaetz who's willing to stand up and call it wrong.
Well, Andrea Mitchell didn't really have an answer to any of that. Apparently, opposition is building against Gaetz in the Senate, but still, consider the weaponization, as Senator Hagerty said, that Biden's perfect resume Attorney General Merrick Garland is accused of. It's stunning. There's simply no logical way to defend these corrupt government institutions that have wasted hundreds of billions of dollars to work against us, not for us. And I don't believe in the end any honest Democrat can defend how the Biden DOJ perverted the rule of law to try to destroy President Trump. The voters rejected all that. Jack Smith starred in some of the best campaign commercials for Trump. We all saw the prosecutions for what they were, and he's had to close up shop. So if I were a Democrat, and thank goodness I'm not, but if I were, I would never again try to defend the Obamas. I'd never again try to defend Biden or tie myself to Cheney or Adam Kinzinger or anyone like that. They're total dead ends. If they couldn't save you in 2024, they sure as heck aren't going to save you in 2028. But there hasn't really been an open fight for the leader of the Democrat Party, probably since Barack Obama and Hillary ran against each other in 2008. And as for any other leadership positions on the Hill, there hasn't been much of a fight there either. For years, they've just operated like a well-oiled machine. It's usually one of the usual suspects. But now that well-oiled machine that gave you people like Pelosi and Schumer, it's broken down. So you have to open up the hood and start fixing things. The Democrats now have their own choice to make. Stick with the severely woke nonsense, keep catering to the never-Trumpers, stay with the liberal approach to education, or work with us. Work with us on trade, work with us on immigration, work with us on our industrial policy, and all of us work together to rebuild our cities. And that will help our working class and certainly help our minority voters. Now imagine Democrats being able to brag in 4 years about rebuilding our cities, about working across the aisle. They'll actually have a record they can be proud of instead of hide from. But if you just sit on the sidelines, you just throw stones, you spit in the wind, you'll just make it easier to elect Vance in 2028. So now that the election is over, they can just admit, all right, we all know it anyway, admit that Trump's not a fascist, he's not a threat to democracy, and say it's time, all of us, to pull together to make our country stronger. And if some of the never-Trumpers want to keep up the hard left anti-Trump agenda, just ignore them. They've been giving you bad advice for years, after all. What did Gwen Waltz, Tim's wife, say? It's time to turn the page. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.